Hey friends, it's Laura. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I am going to be doing a bunch of Hoya chores today. I have some basic repotting-ish chores that need to happen, and then I'm gonna save it for last because I'm very excited about it. I am going to be mounting some Hoyas onto this, it's called a vert planter, but it's basically a hydroponics situation where you mount plants on the outside and they absorb water through this terracotta-ish material. It took me a while to get my hands on this. I try not to buy a bunch of gimmicky. I try not to buy a lot of gimmicky plant things because I feel that plants probably don't need all these gimmicks, but when I saw this, I was quite intrigued. As y'all know, I love artistically displaying, arranging, I don't know, I love getting plants to grow in aesthetically pleasing ways, and obviously it's important for them also to be growing in ways that are healthy for them and beneficial for them. And I just think this is an amazing melding of all those things because I plan to mount the Hoya on here and it will grow kind of like it does in the wild. It is an epiphyte, which means it grows on other plants like trees and things like that. So yeah, I'm just really excited to play with this and get it set up, and I have high hopes for my Hoyas. Anyway, if you're into Hoyas or not or whatever, today is a Hoya day and I'm going to be doing some Hoya chores, and I'm just gonna get started. I'm probably not, you know, this is gonna be a chore video. It's not gonna be glamorous. I think I'm actually all set up for once. I don't have to go collect all my materials, and I'm just gonna get started. But I'm gonna start with the chores that are less exciting. I'm gonna leave the vert planter for last because that will motivate me to get all of these other chores done. The other chores are just repotting. I guess I gotta move things out of the way. And I was also thinking that while I'm planting this up, I'm gonna put my macro lens on the camera so that you all can really see all the ooey gooey details. Could be interesting. So the first plant I'm repotting is my Hoya curtisii. It has some roots coming out the bottom, and Hoyas don't need to constantly be up potted for sure. I know that, but this plant I feel like has a lot of potential, and I feel like I might as well just pot it in a bigger pot for now, and then hopefully I won't have to repot it for a long time. It's also a pretty easy chore to just get done and then let it grow in. Trying to preserve most of this soil because I know it's okay. And it's definitely not super root bound. I probably could have let this go for a while, but as I said, I want the best possible outcomes. Yeah, this is definitely a tiny task. Just popping it in there. And eventually so it's just in a regular nursery pot right now, but eventually I want to put this in a planter, like a cover pot, so it'll stay in this nursery pot, but the planter it's gonna go in is actually a pot that I'm making. I'm getting into pottery, and I made a couple really cute pots. They're right now just waiting to be glazed. I fired them, but they're ready to be glazed now. So that's where this is eventually going to go into. But that pot isn't quite ready, so I figured I might as well just get this done today, and then I can just pop it in the pot whenever it's ready. Okay, that was like the easiest plant chore ever. Just untangling some of these. There we go. Okay, first one done. Put you over here. Next Hoya is my Hoya Crimson Princess. It's not root bound, but it's like really top heavy, and it always is almost falling out of the pot. And actually I think in one of my past videos, it did just fall out of the pot. I feel like when I did the cabinet video, it just fell right out, and it was shocking, but we survived. Perlite is attacking me. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna like plant it in the same pot, but deeper in, if that makes sense. Put more soil on top, just so that it's not tipping over. This probably could use some type of support. And I'm gonna be removing this from this support because, okay, change of plans. I'm gonna actually use this little climby thing because my Hoya Chelsea is going on the vert planter in a moment, so she won't need this thing. And that might actually help everything stay in place. So, so put that on there. Gonna have to get some clips. Obviously didn't have all the supplies, but this was an unplanned supply. Okay, I've got these little pinchy hair clip things, which will work perfectly. I'm gonna put more soil on top, but I think this trellis is actually what was needed. I was maybe fooling myself that soil could fix. Oh, and I just broke off a tiny new leaf. These things happen though. Sorry. Sorry, Hoya. This trellis is definitely on the small side for this plant, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like this pot, maybe a more shallow pot. No, we're just gonna make it work. It is really 2 plants. There we go. I remember the first time I repotted a Hoya, I was so careful with the roots. I think it actually was my Hoya Curtisii that I just repotted. I think that was the first Hoya I ever repotted, and I had heard that the roots were so fragile and you have to be careful, and they definitely are. It's one reason some people choose not to plant in terracotta, because the roots can attach to the pot and kind of get damaged when if and when you repot. I don't know. I don't think they're that fragile, I guess. I've heard that advice, and you know, if you disagree with me, you can let me know, but I don't know that it's that big of a deal. But that being said, my Hoyas aren't very big, and maybe if I had been more gentle when I repotted them, they would have grown more, who knows. Okay. Now we'll just get this on there. Probably this trellis thing is a bit on the small side for this Hoya. And by trellis, this is a piece of wire that I bent around a round thing to make it round. Oh, I think I just kind of didn't snap it, but it kind of bent. It'll be okay though. Little Hoya Curtisii leaf getting in there. Okay, yeah, this stem is actually just snapping, and it's totally dry inside. Hoya sometimes put out these vines that look dead, and sometimes they're not dead, but this definitely is dead. There's nothing inside of it. I'm just gonna snap that off. Sorry. Okay. And I'm winding it, but I'm also gonna clip it. Just winding it so that it looks, so that it kind of hides the clips, but I am gonna clip it. plant is so used to trailing, this is going to be maybe a little shock to it. Okay, clip that on. Oh, looks like a totally different plant. I love it. Well, now it's kind of almost top heavy instead of, I guess it was top heavy before, but it's kind of like definitely more secure. And this lives in my cabinet anyway, so now it will take up more vertical space but less horizontal space, which is actually a good thing for the current cabinet setup. I rearrange those plants once in a while, but not often. But the alocasias have been growing quite quickly, so they now take a lot of the vertical space, and the Hoyas kind of are spreading out along the bottom, but this one can maybe join. I put my Crimson Queen on a mossify trellis, not a trellis, like a wire support like this. I guess that's a trellis. I put the Crimson Queen on a trellis, and so now these two can kind of match. Although the mossify trellis is probably more the size that this Hoya needed, but it's okay. Okay, that's actually way better. I feel like it's much more secure, and it looks like a totally different plant, which is always fun. Just put this extra soil on. Okay, I think that's actually really cute. That was an unexpected upgrade, but might as well put this trellis to use. Okay, I love it. And now I'm done all the boring chores onto my vert planter. Guess I won't be needing soil. However, I won't be needing any fresh soil, but I am obviously removing these plants from soil because they're now going to be growing hydroponically. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna dump them out on my plant mat. I think I'm gonna dump them out on my plant mat and then get rid of the soil and maybe soak them in water to get all the soil off the roots. So let's talk about what I'm doing, and then I will get my macro lens. So this is a vert planter. The idea is you fill it with water, the water seeps through like a terracotta pot, like it seeps through, and then these little divots will be moist, wet, and your plant will kind of attach itself to the planter in the same way, like it's similar idea to the moss pole, but more hydroponics. And you can use this apparently for lots of different plants. I've seen lots of people use it for orchids and ferns. You could use it for philodendron, and I'm actually going to put a melanochrysum on as well, just for kind of the aesthetics, but also to see how well philodendron grows on it. This is an experiment. I've never used something like this before, and if this philodendron dies, it's not the end of the world, it's a propagation. So I'm choosing to use Hoya because it just kind of makes sense from what I know of Hoyas. I've never seen a Hoya growing in the wild, but I've seen them growing at like botanical gardens and obviously in photos, and they're growing up trees with some maybe moss or other plants growing over top of the roots. And I am going to be incorporating moss as well. This is just a jar of moss that I saved and I'm kind of growing. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to be attaching everything with just this string. It is jewelry cord that I just had on hand already, but it's clear, so it won't show up as much as, let's say, yarn or plant Velcro, but you definitely could use those things as well, I'm assuming. You could probably use elastic bands. You could probably use lots of things. So that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna set up the macro lens and I'm probably just gonna kind of talk, but not talk a lot while I'm doing it because, you know, I'm gonna get into the mindset. So I'm gonna be adding this Hoya carry. If you have seen other Hoya videos of mine, you'll know that my Hoya carry does not grow a lot. It's grown some leaves, but they usually die off. I've re-rooted it. It's got healthy roots, but it just, I don't know, it doesn't like to grow. And so I'm kind of thinking, okay, it doesn't have a ton of roots going on. The roots are really dry, but it's definitely alive. And there is like little growth points, but they never really turn into anything. So I feel like this is a good chance to experiment with a new method of growing this plant. And if the experiment fails and I lose this plant, I will be sad, but it's not thriving in my care anyway. Just getting all the little bits of soil off the roots, and then I'm gonna soak these in water like I said. And this is actually 3 separate plants. I've tried a lot of things for this plant. And now I will mount it on here. I think at the very worst, even if it doesn't grow a lot on this, it will look really pretty on it, which a huge appeal. A huge thing I love about the idea of this planter is it's really unique. You're gonna see the roots. I'm gonna see the roots growing. Also, obviously, it's easy care. You just fill it up with water. Anyway, this is an experiment. I love the idea of this. We'll see if it actually, you know, is a great way to grow plants. It looks cool though. Okay, got those out. Like I said, I'm gonna put the melanochrysum in there as well. And this is just a propagation. It's not the most beautiful plant at the moment. Oh, it has amazing roots. Was this a propagation? You know what this was? This was a bottom cut of a plant. Okay. I guess this has a lot of roots. I was not expecting this. I was expecting really shallow roots. But now that I'm digging it up, I'm remembering that this was like the bottom cut. And I propagated the top pieces. Oh well. I'm hoping to kind of cover the roots with some moss so that you can see them, but not, you know, crazy amount of roots. And I'm also going to be attaching my Hoya Chelsea. And this is a Hoya that I've grown from a small cutting. It's still really small, which is why I'm using it. A lot of my Hoyas are way too big for this type of situation. I mean, not way too big, but they would kind of dwarf it. Oh, and this is really well rooted in here. And I'm using this one, so for size, but also just, it hasn't grown in a while, even though I did add that little trellis, which I thought would kind of boost growth, maybe. It was a trial. So I'm not sure why it's not growing. It might just be taking a rest, but I thought, why not experiment with something new? And I just think it will look really beautiful with the Hoya caryi. The greens aren't exactly the same, but they're similar. Same with the melanochrysum, like it's like a dark green, I don't know. People that have plants know, they know the difference, the different greens. Like I looked at every single Hoya considering what to plant on this, and a lot of them were too dark, or just the variegation doesn't match the Hoya Carey. Like the variegation on this is very creamy yellow, whereas the Crimson Princess, for example, is creamy pink. And to me, that does not match. And it's my planter, so I get to decide. Okay. I guess I need to go get water now to rinse these off. I thought I had everything I need. I'll be back. Okay, so I've got a bowl of water here, and I'm just adding some liquid seaweed. I probably don't need to add anything, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I find my Hoyas really like that liquid seaweed. Should probably mix it up a little bit. I'm gonna just let these sit in here while I tidy everything up, and it'll just rinse off a little bit more soil, but also rehydrate those roots. Oh, I guess it's fine if the leaves go in there too. I sometimes will add that to my spray bottle and spray my Hoyas. They like it. I was a little bit nervous about using it the very first time. I've been using that for a long time on my plants, and it smells quite strong. It smells like seaweed, which just like, I don't know, kind of made me nervous the first time I used it, but they love it. And I feel like because it's natural, plant-based, whatever, you know, I've never had a problem of adding too much. I'm sure you can add too much, but it's not like a chemical fertilizer that, you know, you have to be really careful with. Okay, we're gonna let those sit over here. I'm just gonna tidy up and we'll get started. I'm gonna be recycling that soil. I don't recycle all soil, but the soil is fine. Just putting it back in my tote. Okay, I'm gonna go grab my macro lens and then we'll get started. Okay, so here we are, and like I said, this is all gonna be experimental, but I'm mostly gonna be like trying to make it look pretty. I feel like the placement on here doesn't matter as much as like the aesthetic. I'm gonna be placing basically based on what I think looks good, and then hopefully whatever I decide also grows well. I didn't get all the soil off the roots. I don't know, maybe I should try to get all the soil off the roots. It also don't want to shock the roots too much. I'm going to be adding moss, so I feel like a little bit of soil is probably fine. I'm going to place this guy first. Something like that. I also am probably just going to go silent at some point because I'm going to get really into this. That looks pretty. And the idea, of course, is that this will root into it a little bit. And I could keep it winding around, perhaps. In my mind, this seemed like it would kind of, I don't know what. I thought the plants would sort of like attach themselves and I would just be adding supports. I don't know why I thought that. That makes no sense, but. I feel like I almost need something to attach it and then I attach. Okay, so I'm gonna attach these with masking tape until I like how they look, and then I'm gonna add the cord because I don't know how else to do it. And then I can just cut the tape off. There, something like that. Oh. Yeah, like these have really healthy roots. So hopefully they just attach on there and they're happy. We'll see though. We will see. Maybe in there. This is kind of like a funny hunk of stem root thing. I don't know exactly how to attach that guy, but I guess the plant will adjust itself as well. Hopefully. Tape is definitely not the best solution. Probably elastic bands would work. I don't really have that many elastic. My dogs are running around if you hear little tap dancing sounds. I don't really have any elastic bands. like hair bands, but I don't think that would work. Anyway. Okay, got another one on there. And then the last one, I'm gonna place kind of like in like that maybe? I don't know. Maybe like that. Maybe like that. Although then this kind of looks, I want to give them room to grow, but I also don't want it to look super bald and sparse because they haven't grown yet, you know? This is kind of my issue with all plants. You want to give them room to grow, but you know, you want them to look good too. If you're growing Hoya caryi and perhaps you have tried to research how to make them grow because they don't grow very often, you've probably seen lots of those photos of Hoya caryi like growing up a tree, and it just looks so beautiful. That's what I'm imagining happening. We'll see. Okay. Oh, I mean, minus the tape, I feel like, oh shoot. I feel like this is a good setup. This tape is not wanting to stick. Once it gets wet, it's kind of done. Okay. And then the melanochrysum, I was thinking of just like kind of putting in the back, more as an experiment. I think I'm gonna attach it separately so that way if I have to take it off, I don't have to undo, you know, all of this. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna attach this cord around as much as I can, like wind it around, and then I'm gonna add the moss on top after I remove the tape, I think. Might turn into quite a long video. Trying to catch as many bits of the plants as I can. I'm probably going to wrap this quite a bit because they need to be secure, I would assume, for them to root properly and happily. But I guess I'm adding the moss too, so that's going to add some structure as well. Okay, that feels kind of secure, I think. try taking the tape off. Hopefully we're good. The tape's like all intertwined as well. It's okay. There we go. Okay, so they're all on there. I think that looks cute. I think the moss will help a lot as well though, for as far as aesthetics. I'm gonna just snip these cords in the back. Okay, I don't have a ton of moss, and this is just moss that like came with another plant that I've just been keeping alive in this jar in case I ever need some moss. And the moss kind of sticks on, which is very helpful at this point. Okay, this is very fun. The stretchy cord is a good idea, but then also sometimes it isn't. I think it's definitely helping, like you can adjust things better with the stretchy cord. I also don't know how durable this stretchy cord will be. Like I said, it's not necessarily made for planty crafts, but it's what I have. Oh. Okay, I can take this tape off as well, I guess. Okay, I think the moss definitely needs more securing. I thought I was doing such a good job. I'm wondering though, now that I have string on, I think I'm just gonna kind of like stuff the moss underneath the string. That might be a lot easier, and then I could just put it where I want it to go versus where it chooses to go. So again, the stretchy cord is very helpful with this because I'm just able to tuck these in underneath. Now I'm assuming this vert planter, like, once plants root into it, they should be secure, but we will see. We will see. A little bit of research that I've done, you know, when I saw this thing, I just thought, oh my gosh, that looks so fun to play with, so fun to arrange plants on. And, you know, I tried to find people that had been growing things on it for a long time, but I think this is a pretty new item. I'm not sure. I couldn't find a ton of people that are like, I've been growing this plant on here for 5 years and it's doing great. It was more like, yeah, it looks great. Been growing things on it for a couple months. So far, so good. Those were kind of the reviews that I saw, which is fine if it's a newish product. That's kind of all you get, but might as well just use up all this moss that I have. I don't really have any other tasks planned for the moss, although I guess I need some for the melanochrysum as well. Okay. Okay, so the monochrysum, I think I can just like, oh, I was thinking I would attach this separately, but now that I have all of these strings already on here, I could just maybe tuck it in. That might be the cheater way, but at this point, that seems a lot easier. Maybe it's easy. I slide this under there. This is probably very risky to this plant. Although, if it works, right? Can't even see what I'm doing. There we go. So let's mount it on there. This huge amount of roots, I don't know. Do I just attach it? Gonna kind of tuck the roots in there. I fully expect to lose some of these roots because we are switching to hydroponic. Sometimes the soil roots kind of just leave you. But I don't want to cut them or anything and risk shocking the plant even more. I'm sure this plant is gonna be so shocked, but it's an experiment. Oh. This is very soggy. So the moss, in case you're wondering, this came on top of, I believe it was my jewel orchid. The jewel orchid came like that. It was mostly rooted in moss, and I figured I might as well save the moss. I put a little bit in the planter where I'm growing the jewel orchid, but the rest of it, I just had way too much. So I just planted it kind of in that jar with a little tiny bit of soil at the bottom. And then I did have a lid on the jar. I had this on top and then just had it in a sort of sunny spot just to keep the moss alive for whenever I wanted to use it. Once I knew I was gonna order one of these planters, I was like, yeah, that's probably what I'm gonna use that moss for. Okay, how does this look? The monochrysum is going to be facing the back anyway at first, so I'm less concerned about the aesthetic of it, but you know. I was thinking that eventually if the Melanocrisis grows up and kind of over, or like as it grows, if I could kind of train it around, that would look really beautiful. We'll see. I'm just adjusting these to make them perfect. In my opinion, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna go give this a rinse, and then I'm gonna fill it with water, and I will show it off. Here it is all cleaned up. I think it looks pretty good. Fill it up with water, and we might even be able to see the water start seeping through. So I think the planter is all saturated with water. I've put it on this shelf. This shelf usually has a grow light on it. I didn't want to put the planter back in the cabinet just because it is a vessel of open water, and kind of worries me that there could be like a pest breeding ground happening in the cabinet. So I'm going to keep it over here. It's going to get tons of light. Obviously humidity will be increased because, you know, it's a hydroponic situation. We will see. I'll for sure keep you guys updated on how this goes. I am very interested. I love how it turned out. I think it looks super cute, and it was really fun to build. Obviously the repotting was fun to do too, but that was very satisfying. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you're having a wonderful spring, and I will hopefully see you in my next video. Bye.